That's it. How you doing, Billy?
I'm good, Caleb. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So Osher, who set this up, he saw the title, that was your title. He's like, that's the best title I've ever seen.
What can I tell you? I'm just that good.
I said, how come you never said that about any of my titles? Of course. Yeah, your title was awesome. And I saw your title and went, oh, that's good.
Well, thanks.
I have one opinion about what you're going to talk about, but I'll let you focus on this first. And then you might address my opinion when you talk about this, because I agree with you that these things, what I said a few minutes ago really quick was that what people perceive are disadvantages. So two things. What people perceive are disadvantages are often advantages. They don't realize it. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, or as importantly, anyone who states an excuse, you can find 10, 20, 50 other people who have that excuse and worse and still made a lot of money with it. Mm-hmm. So I pointed out, like someone who says, I'm so mentally ill. Well, so is Kanye West. He's super mentally ill. He's done fine. And like Roseanne Barr has some real mental illness issues. She's done fine. So any excuse you can come up with, there's a lot of people who had it worse than you who did perfectly fine. So it's never an excuse either. That's
there are always ways to overcome everything, almost everything. I haven't yet run into a challenge we can't figure out some solution or improvement for.
Neither have I.
But specifically, what I wanted to talk about as a person who has both ADHD and Asperger's, there's a reason that a lot of us suck in corporate jobs. Whether you like it or not, most of us don't like it. But a lot of people with ADHD in particular suck at their corporate job. And there's a reason that they are amazing entrepreneurs. And that's really what I wanted to address today. The reason for this comes from having coached with a bunch of Caleb's audience for the last couple of years. And do you remember, Caleb, your 6-figure warrior mentorship program,
yes,
which was the former year-long intensive coaching program? We actually had one of the members that on my first call with him, I wondered if he had ADHD. It turns out he did. He wasn't diagnosed until in his 30s while we were working through your program, actually. And was able to change his lifestyle pretty dramatically because he understood all of a sudden why he was having some struggles, why some things didn't come naturally to him and others did. And that's something that I think is really not talked about enough. We talk about ADHD and autism are kind of buzzwords right now. It's kind of popular. And there are two reasons for that. Number one is some of us are waking up and saying, hey, the normal corporate structure is never going to work for me. I've got to do something else or I'm just going to shoot myself. This is horrible.
Yep.
And on the other hand, we're seeing that people, like you said, people who have challenges to overcome still have a place in our society and in our workforce and still have value. But it's not the traditional value, right? We are taught to be complicit little people who sit in our little box. We learn exactly what we're supposed to learn that someone else prescribed. We don't follow our interests, and they're preparing us for a life of being led and directed every step. And people like me don't function in that world very well. Caleb, wouldn't you agree? If somebody said, I want you to sit down and do this from this exact time to this exact time, you're going to clock up for a 1-hour lunch in the middle of your day, better not be a hair second late either end of that. That doesn't work for you either.
My first real job was doing tech support. And this is right before they outsourced all this to India. So I was in a cubicle on the phones and the computer showed when you were active on the phone and you were only allowed to get up out of your cubicle at certain times. And you had literally 10 minutes. You had to take a little flag. It was like being in kindergarten. You had to take a little flag and stick it on a thing. And you could only see 2 flags the same color, or else you had to wait to go to the bathroom. If you didn't come back, there was a supervisor who had a clipboard and he walked down the aisles. These are like adults, 30s, 40s, 50s being treated this way. And he's checking off names. And if you weren't back at that moment, also at 8 a.m. in the morning, 800.800, and then you'd hear about it. If you got a check mark, you'd get called in. Hey, you didn't. What's hilarious, I was 19 at the time. I was the youngest person in the company, and it drove me insane. Yeah.
Same here.
Well
I mean,
said.
having structure is great, especially for people who are neurodivergent. We need structure. We might not like it, but we need some sort of structure. But at the same time, it can't be too rigid because that is just not a tenable situation. It causes a lot of anxiety. Your performance suffers terribly. And I think about, the time of day when I work the best. And Caleb, you know this about me. At 4 or 5 in the morning, 5 or 6 these days, I'm at my best. I'm on fire. I'm going to crank out amazing work. But if you want to talk to me after 3 p.m., good luck. This girl's brain is fried by that time of day.
Yeah.
I'm not very productive. I've exerted all of my energy earlier in the day, but in the traditional corporate structure, I can't do that. And I can't take breaks to say, like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overstimulated. I just need some physical activity in my day. Those are all things that were kept from us in the corporate structure. Even if you have an hour for lunch, you still have to like chow your food, change into something that you can go walking in, maybe go for one of those dorky power walks, around the compound or something, but you're limited to all of those things. And there's another thing I want to bring up, and tell me, Caleb, if you experience this. I deal a lot with overstimulation from sights and sounds, particularly, but smells as well. So in an office environment, you have the smells of people's food. You have the smell of, the chairs and the fragrances in the bathroom. And, it's just this huge cacophony of scents and sounds and people. And for me, that's just super overwhelming. I shut down at some point because there's just too much input coming in. And I heard the coolest analogy the other day that you'll have to help me put in the right terms because I'm not a tech girl. But it was something like people who have ADHD are like computers that are running 4 times the speed of what their processors are able to keep up with. So we're getting a lot more, we are aware of many more inputs than your average person is. Do you experience any of that, Caleb?
So I don't, but Pink Firefly, my wife, has her personality type is called HSP, high sensitivity person. So she has the same problem you do. She gets almost stimulated by lights, sounds, smells. Yeah, and so it's interesting is that there's 2 kinds of people. People can react like they get overwhelmed, they shut down, or they get overwhelmed, they freak out. There's both kinds because they can't. I don't have a problem with it, and I think that's just the way I was born. I have other issues, but I don't have the problem with shit. I live in Dubai, so clearly I have a problem with. I live downtown Dubai right now, and I go to Las Vegas. You hate Vegas. I think Vegas is fucking great. I love Vegas. I've spent a week in Vegas once. Now that doesn't mean I'm out doing stuff all day. I might be in my hotel room working on books and stuff. But so I am married to someone who has that issue, has that exact issue. So I'm well aware that, and I have to remind myself. The hard thing with people like me who don't have the problem is we have to remind ourselves that a lot of people do have that issue. Like the first time you said, yeah, this is true. The very first time you and I talked about Vegas, doing an event there, which is years ago, you're like, oh, I hate Vegas. I went, what?
I know. Shocked. I said that's my idea of Vegas. Vegas and Dubai are literally my idea of hell.
Right.
Like, they're not bad when I get there. I don't hate it, but I couldn't live. I never considered living there. A week would be far too long.
And that's also why you like Paraguay. Paraguay is why I go to Paraguay. Same reason you go. You land in Paraguay and go, that's nice. It's just so nice and relaxing, and people are quiet, and the city is, comparatively quiet for a city, and that's why I go to Paraguay to decompress.
It's one of the dreamiest cities I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So even nature girl like me feels comfortable there.
Yeah, that too. More nature, all that stuff. Yes. So even if you don't have this overstimulation, you still need a break from it. That's why I go to Paraguay. Yeah.
Well put. What's one thing, it's just something that I've noticed more and more as we teach the business builder. We're well into the 2nd year of teaching the 90-day business builder. For those of you who aren't aware, I'm involved with that with Caleb as well. And it's an awesome program. But what I've noticed is we probably have about 20%, 25% minimum of the people in that program who are neurodivergent. And it's really fascinating to me that they gravitate to us. But it also makes sense because what is the framework of all of your programs? Is I'm going to teach you something, and then you're going to take action, right? That's it. That's
Push
the
you into
direction that
action.
you
Yep.
give.
Push you into action.
Exactly. That's it. What is
Yep.
the very key to being a successful entrepreneur? Learn something, take action. That's all it is. That's the entire key.
Mostly take action, because we have a
Mhm.
problem with our audience where we have a lot of people who learn. They never take action.
And here's the
Yes.
benefit of being a neurodivergent person. When you have ADHD, impulse control can be a challenge, right? But it's also a strength when making business decisions. You're able to make impulsive decisions and back that up. Huge, huge benefit. And that's where I've seen it the most in the business builder, because we have a certain contingent of guys that will be in the research phase for their entire life if we allow them to be. And
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
other
And that's
people
almost
who
the norm.
understand. It really is more the norm than anything. People struggle so much with niche. But I've
Mhm.
noticed that the people who don't struggle with niche tend to be on the spectrum and tend to be fairly, a little bit more impulsive in their decision making, which is a huge benefit because in the program, we're teaching you a process, right? And it's a replicable process, and that's what makes it magic. But in order to learn the process, you have to be willing to take each step. And that's where I've seen the benefit. A lot of neurotypical people will be stuck in indecision, stuck in research, or not even understand how to see opportunities. And I
Yes.
think that's I've really been talking about this a lot because you and Jeff have both told me, as have guys in the program, that I'm really good at coming up with niches
Yeah.
and coming up with pivots, looking at things through slightly different lenses.
Yep.
And of course, I'm me. I just assume everyone can do this. It's just kind of a basic skill for me. It does not seem like anything special in any way. But
Well,
when I
you don't think
realized,
it's special because it's you. That's how it
Mhm,
works. Yeah. I mean,
it really is. And that's something I want our audience to really understand. There are special magic powers that you have that you don't realize. You just think everyone can do it. You think everyone can make decisions. Perhaps you think everyone can hyper focus on something, which is, you have a new idea and you're buried in that idea for a week. You forget to eat. Maybe you forget to use the restroom. You forget people exist. You're really hyper focused on whatever it is that you're doing. And that's another neurodivergent trait where we sometimes it is not to our benefit, right? If we're hyper focusing on a video game or, counting calories or, something that kind of calories can be beneficial, of course, but you know what I'm saying? We don't want it to disrupt our lives, but it can add a tremendous amount. Um, Caleb, I wonder what your experiences are, especially since we've been teaching the business builder together for a while.
mhm.
Um, what do you see as some of the characteristics that help people get over that niche phase specifically?
I'm hesitating because I'm trying to figure out how to say this. You have to have a few things. One is you have to have the ability to act in spite of your fear of being wrong, which is very difficult for not only people today, but entire generations of people today because of the way society is right now. Number one. Number two, you have to be kind of motivated. So if you just, and this is with everything, if you just want to make more money because I want to make more money, it's not enough. You have to really want. When I started out, and I know you were like this too. When I started out, when I had nothing in my early 20s, it wasn't just, oh, it'd be cool to make more money. No, it was like, I hate my life. I hate being an employee. I hate being poor. I hate being 4 months late on my electric bill every 4 months. I hate worrying about buying. This was me in my early 20s, trying to find enough money to put gas in my car to get to work. I hate this life. I can't stand this, and I refuse to live like this. I have to live a different way. It was a must for me. One of the many reasons that I have not lost as much weight as I'd like to lose, which is the only part of my life that isn't like a 9 or a 10, is because there's motivation, but not a lot. Because your life could be pretty good, especially when you're a man and you're a little overweight. No one cares. Most women don't care. Your customers don't care. Your coworkers don't care. Your family doesn't care. No one really cares. I mean, if I was 400 pounds, they'd probably care. But so it's like, well, then there's a voice in your head saying, this is fine. It's okay. I can have this burrito. So it's a motivation thing. So you have to have the motivation too. But I don't know how that ties into, if you're on the spectrum or if you have ADHD. I'm trying to remember both my wife and then my son, Josh. He has less of this now, but when he was younger, when he was little, he had all the symptoms of ADHD. And he's become really successful, and he's only in his early 30s. I'm trying to tie this together. I mean, I don't see these linkages like you do, but to me, it's the ability to take action when you think. That's huge. The ability to take action when you think you might be wrong. You might make a mistake. What if I make, that's the fear. I just did the mindset session coincidentally for last week for the Night of Builder, the new mindset session. And I took all the data from overcoming fear. And the bottom line is, when we talked for like an hour, but I had a lot of stuff on this, but the bottom line is, whatever you're afraid of, you're not really afraid of. Well, what if I waste 6 months of my life because I picked the wrong niche? Well, what if I waste $2,000 because I don't do? Okay, you're not afraid of that. What you're afraid of is, I can't handle it. If this happens, I won't be able to handle it. So if you just remind yourself, I can handle it, all of a sudden you're less afraid. And I think, going back to what you're talking about, I think that's already wired in to some people who are partially on the spectrum or have ADHD, or I think they already have some of that wiring. Maybe they don't have to work as hard to get there. I don't know. What do you think? That's what I think.
Exactly what I'm seeing. And I see people on the spectrum being able to pivot more easily, change. We don't love change, but we're able to make changes very quickly because we lose attention, right? We might lose interest if things aren't going well. So pivoting the direction, changing our niche, or looking at our niche through a slightly different lens than average, which I guess is something I didn't realize I do. And the more I talk to other neurodivergent people, the more I realize one of our commonalities is that we have this childlike sense of wonder. And I guess, again, I thought everyone felt like they were about 11 years old inside, because that's honestly like my internal age. I'm just a little kid having fun. But how that spills over into things. So if I go to a restaurant, I wonder where their food is coming from, how it gets from point A to point B, what the manufacturing process is, what their process is for scheduling, what are the tools and implements that they use to get this done, how do they communicate, what's their booking system. I'm just like a little kid who says, how, mom, what, how? And I'm sure I drove people crazy my entire life because of that curiosity.
You must have driven your parents insane.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure everyone.
I didn't ask as many questions, but I asked difficult questions because my parents were average intelligence and I'm smarter. They're like, I don't know. So we both were environments where we asked a lot of questions. Yeah, it helps. Sorry,
exactly. But I realized that that's what I do in everyday life. And I was speaking to Gary, who's now one of the boss coaches, and he's been involved in the 90-Day Business Builder. Gary, who blows things up from Australia. I'm sure you know who I mean, Caleb.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And one of our company, this man is brilliant at helping people find their niches and really
He's awesome.
And get over some of those internal hurdles that they have, some of those fears. And I realized that he does the same thing I do. He must be about 14 internally, but he looks at the world in a very similar way.
Right.
That work. And what are the pieces? What are the components that make this work? What are the businesses that feed into this? What is the system? And it's that curiosity that serves us so well. So for those of you who are always interested in different things, learning about different topics, what better thing to do than work for someone like Caleb or myself, or even better, start your own business that's like Caleb's and mine. And the reason I say that is, Caleb, we've talked about this before, but when we hire a new person into the company, how do we determine their path in that business?
We pay attention to what they want and we ask. So right? What's that?
What they're good at is a part of it, but a lot of it is what they want to learn, what
they want,
what interests them.
Mm-hmm. And then, and that's why you and I are good. You're better at it than I am. I learned a lot of this from you. Is we ask them, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And I've talked about this internally, where the fantasy company, which might not be achievable in the real world, but you get close to it, is where everyone in the company is doing exactly what they want to do. It doesn't, regardless of the position, regardless of the level of position, doesn't matter. everyone in the company, and you can do this with smaller companies, bigger companies harder, but smaller companies, that we talk about here at Unchained CEO, location dependent, every person that you're working with, every person in your team is doing exactly what they really like to do and what they're really good at, what they're interested in doing. And then your
And that's the
goal,
most
you're there.
important thing. There are tasks that none of us like doing, and we will farm those off to other people on the team. Caleb and I, in this business and in other businesses, what the roles and tasks that we take on are what we want to do, what's interesting to us. If it's not interesting to me, I'm not going to get it done. I'm going to procrastinate. I'm going to tell myself it wasn't that important, even though I know it was. So, and that's another factor of ADHD, right? Prioritization can be really hard. But when you're given an open space like Caleb and I provide, we'll give you the framework for creating, a successful plan of attack. But then we allow you to do it. We don't say you need to clock in at this time. I need you to be sitting at your desk wearing work suitable clothing from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We would never say that to anyone.
And when you have your own business, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the only thing I ask of my teams and vendors is let's be available for a call once a week, maximum. That's all I ask. We need to be working in the same time zone and available to talk at least once. That's all. And how does that work for you, Caleb? I know it's pretty similar.
Well, and I think I've mentioned this before publicly, maybe I haven't. I think I've written about this in my books, is that even before I adopted the location dependent models, when I had a traditional location dependent business and I actually had real employees way back in my 20s and 30s, even back then, but this has always been my model, is whenever someone works with me or works for me, I don't care when you do it. I don't care how you do it. This is very Alpha 2.0. Alchemy dependent. I don't care. Don't give a shit when you come in to work. Don't give a shit when you work. Don't give a shit how you do it. Do not care. What I care about is you get it done, and you get it done right and done on time. If you get it done right and done on time, if you work 1 hour a week, I don't care. Don't care at all. I just want the results. I'm very results focused.
So
the last thing I want to do, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, just imagine if you're a person like me who struggles with that corporate 9-to-5 bullshit and being told, having your entire day dictated to you. Imagine how freeing and liberating it is. Not only, you don't have to own your own business. Of course, we advocate for that. But at least at the bare minimum, guys, be a freelancer and find someone to work for who has the same ethos that Caleb and myself do. And if you have your business owner isn't going to do that, they're going to ride you. They're going to micromanage. And I've fired clients for that reason. Sorry, I can't work with you because your ethos is to micromanage or not trust your people. That's not how it works for me.
Yeah. And when you have your own business, if you have these strong desires because that's your personality, you can construct your own job. That's what your business is. I don't like to use that terminology, but sometimes that terminology tends to resonate better with people because they come from a job world. And I've been out of that world for so long, I've almost forgotten what it was like. I mean, I've had a job since 1996. That's how long it's been for me. But anyway, if you can't stand the fact that you have a boss telling you what to do all the fucking time, which is standard, when you have your own business, you determine where you spend your time. Now, that's both a blessing and a curse. But if you have these issues that Billie is talking about, more likely you'll be more apt to take action on the things that will make you money faster than if you're the typical LISIG, low-income smart guy or low-income smart gal, where you're just constantly, you're analyzing and thinking and analyzing and thinking. And yes, so my point is you can build a framework to do what you want. That's why I've talked about, this is a good segue, but why retirement is such a stupid idea. Retirement is for people who have jobs, 9-to-5 corporate jobs, who hate their jobs. If you have a 9-to-5 corporate job and you work in a cubicle and you hate it, you want to kill yourself, you can't wait to retire. When you're like Billie or myself, you have your own business that you enjoy or enjoy most of the time.
Yeah.
Retirement is the dumbest fucking idea I've heard in my life. People still say, well, you're going to retire. Like, are you kidding? I'll back off on my work hours, of course, but I am never going to retire. I will be working in my 80s. And the people who I respect the most, the men who I look up to as mentors to me, almost 100% of them are men who are well in their 70s, and work, if not full-time, close to full-time or very flexible full-time, and they love their work. And they don't need to. These are multi-gazillionaires. They don't need to work, but these guys are healthy and they're happy and they're loving life in their 70s. They look good because they like what they do. So that rolls exactly into what you're talking about. Yes, if you like what you do, it changes your whole life. And you will never like what you do if you're stuck in a 9-to-5 corporate job that you hate. There's a small percentage maybe you can address this, Billie, because I've addressed this my own asshole way. There's a small percentage of the audience, but they're always there, who say, but I like my job. I had a big guy at my blog a few years ago say, I love my job. My job is so great, and this and that and this. I can work with great people, and I can work at these really cool buildings, and I can work at these fun projects. And my answer to him was, you could do all that working for yourself. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, you could pick exactly what you want. But what do you say? You're less aggressive about quit your job and start your business than I am. So what would you say to the guys and gals who say, I love my job? Why don't I just stick with that? I love it. Or should they stick with it in your view?
Great. Like, do that. If that makes you happy and you're that risk averse, stay in your job. Because I've gone through it with a business partner. You've seen this firsthand. So have I.
I have. Yes.
We had a business partner who thought she was very open to risk. And it turned out that her discomfort with risk was actually incredibly high. She's very risk averse, but didn't realize that until she stepped into the shoes of being an entrepreneur and having uncertain income levels, because she was accustomed to getting a monthly check, knowing what that would be. It was very, very clearly defined. Does she love the work or the structure? Not necessarily, but in her case, the trade-off was worth it. But that's where I encourage people, okay, if you're comfortable and you feel that you need that kind of structure, at least find a remote job. Don't be going into somebody's stupid building. Don't be commuting.
Yeah.
Don't deal with Bob's stinky egg salad sandwich in the next cubicle. Don't deal with,
awesome.
Tanisha over there clacking her fingernails. Like, just don't fuck with that. Don't fuck
Oh
with
my
that.
God. You sound like Pink Firefly. You do that detailed stuff like, so funny.
But
you know what?
Not everyone is as into risk as you and I are. We are okay falling down, knowing that we can pick ourselves up. We've learned another lesson. We'll move on. Not everyone feels that way. And not everyone has started the way we did either. We started, from a difficult place. So, we're open to risk. And I just get bored so easily that I have to switch and work for a bunch of companies, work for a bunch of clients. But not everyone feels that way, and that's okay. But at least freelance at the very minimum. And if you have ADHD or any stimulatory processing issues, for God's sake, why are you working in an office? In this day and age, there's no reason.
No kidding. No shit.
It doesn't serve you to be in an office. You shouldn't be there. And by office, I mean, that can mean you're an HVAC technician, you're a plumber, you're a landscaper, you're a contractor. I don't care what it is that you do. There's always a way of improving things, and you need to do what works for you. So if you're a contractor, for example, and you're better off doing things, you do your best work at 8:00 at night, then you better be working for a private home builder who's going to let you work at that time, right? Don't try to fit yourself into someone else's really constrictive box. We're past that. This is 2024. We're past it. Find your own path that works for you. We just don't have to put up with this other crap.
See, and I'm going to extend that to having a job versus starting a business. There's no reason anymore. 1950s was different, but there's no reason. Even the 1980s was different. There's no reason to put up with a bullshit job anymore. Literally, in this modern era, with the internet, with geo arbitrage, with the ability for you to go to places like Upwork and hire people very inexpensively, with your ability to identify niches and determine problems and solutions for those niches, you've never had this ability ever. We've never had this ability ever before in all of human history, including just literally maybe 25 years ago. I mean, even if you go back to as recent as the early 90s, you couldn't do this without a lot of research.
Internet. We barely had the internet. It was chat rooms back in the early 90s. You have to remember, guys. And that's when Caleb and I mean, he is older than me, but that's when Caleb and I were in school. I know. I know, Caleb. But that actually leads into something else I was going to say. And we've talked about this before too. People on the spectrum tend to have some like superpower to be able to vibe check people, like make really good judgments of
Okay,
people.
describe. Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Can you describe that? I'm not familiar with
So,
that.
Caleb, I'm really good at finding what we consider unicorns in the
Mhm.
workplace.
You are.
People with very specialized skill sets and attitudes,
Yep.
right? And I don't do a traditional interview. We don't do like 3 interviews and a panel interview and that normal corporate crap. I
Mhm.
have a 15, 30-minute casual conversation and I ask weird questions, about
Yeah.
their life, how they spend their time, how they like to structure their day, what their hobbies are. I ask them everything but their technical skills because for me, I'm literally just doing a vibe check. So every time a client tells me, like, oh my God, I can't believe you found this amazing person, that was just me doing a vibe. Not a lot of research, not a, just a special tool I have. And it's the same when I walk into into a building or a situation. I can feel the vibe really easily. And people rely on me a lot for that,
And
which I
I
never
can't. I don't
understood.
have that ability. I don't have that ability at all. I don't think
Mhm.
I do. Maybe I do a little bit. I can't get a vibe. I can see I can identify if a person is happy or unhappy and some basic things like that, but I can't vibe like you can. So I think that's a personality thing because I don't. And I understand you shouldn't spend a lot of time asking questions about their technical ability because you can teach that. You hire for
Exactly.
attitude, not ability. Right.
But
So I'm
in the
aware of that.
corporate world, you don't. In the corporate world, you hire for ability
I
to do
know.
one particular narrow
Stupid.
skill. That's
It's
the other
stupid. Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. It sucks. Yeah. Right.
So,
Um, Go ahead.
back to
Sorry.
that whole vibe check thing, though.
Yeah.
Um, it's been ever present since I was a little kid. I've always known how to do this. And this goes back to the fact that our systems are processing at a much higher rate. We're processing much more inputs than the average person. We notice all of that little stuff. Um,
Now you also have an advantage. Tell me if you agree or disagree. You also have an advantage being a woman, being more intuitive, because I think women are more intuitive.
I
Matter of fact,
don't
I don't think
know.
you don't
I don't
know.
know.
Okay.
I'm a lot more like a dude in a lot of those ways, in the
I
way that
know
I
your
interact.
your personality is more masculine-ish. That's true.
Mhm.
But I mean, maybe for you it's a combination of the fact you're a woman and you have these traits, both. Because
Could be.
you're right, man. You can hire people so well, way better than I can. You're way better than I am. And it's because you have this little radar in your head that I don't have, or I have very little of it. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, so on the surface of it, all of these things sound like a disparate set of skills that people like me have. But when it comes together in this way, I can pivot and do just about anything. I can learn just about anything, unless it's really technical because I'm not interested. If there's something I'm interested, I can learn it and I can do it very quickly. And that's true of many people on the spectrum. So to me, I call it chasing my dopamine because really I'm just doing the things that make me happy, give me that extra little hit,
mhm.
um, and gets me merrily through my day. But I really encourage everyone who's on the spectrum who struggles with those confines in the workplace, at the bare minimum, guys, be a freelancer. Bare minimum. It is not that
um,
hard to do. And best case scenario, create the lifestyle like Caleb and I have. When our interests change, guess what? We add a new program. Caleb writes a new book, right? We can't get bored because we're always pivoting. We're never
yep,
doing the same thing 2 days in a row.
yep.
Even when we're doing lives, we don't know what we're going to talk about until we're talking about it. We have a little idea. Um, but even with this, we let things occur naturally in the way that works for us. And each one of us can do that. And you have these, special powers that literally, until recently, I didn't realize were anything out of the usual.
Okay, I want to talk about the special powers. So I'm going to give you my view on this, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, because I think I'm right about this. Um, so a while back, I was doing a Q&A, but it was a private Q&A. It might have been through the SMIC program. It was a while back. And they said, Caleb, what is your big negative of your personality? Because everyone has negatives. And I said, I don't really have a lot of empathy. I barely have any. I just don't give a shit. I'm not an asshole, but I just don't. If you're sad, I'm not going to feel sad. If you're happy, I'm not going to feel happy. I'm going to feel what I'm feeling, and I don't really care what you're feeling. Now, if you're close to me, I care that you're unhappy, but I don't. That's different than being empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what they immediately said was, and they had a good point. They said, well, shit, that's a positive. That's not a negative. Not giving a shit about other people feeling bad. That can help you in life. And I thought about that. And I went, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
It does.
In many scenarios, that's a plus, not a negative, even though humanity would consider it. And in many conditions, you considered it a negative.
Yeah. See, Dee said he thinks that's why you're good with dating. And I think so too. You're right, because it is your brand of dating is, I would call, something completely different.
Awesome.
No, I call it just random fuckery because that's what it is. Dating is building a relationship. Random fuckery is what you're good at.
I build relationships. I just build multiple ones.
Yeah.
You should come on one of these days. You should come on the other channel. We can have a little debate.
Oh my God, that would be so much fun. You guys
should do that.
You would all
that'd be fucking hilarious,
me. Just let me tell you.
Well, that's up to you. If you're brave enough, you want to step in the lion's den in the other channel, we can do that.
I'm not scared. Like, they're not going to change my mind. I'm probably not going to change theirs. Aces.
Right.
But I'll help you make a lot of money. So
I like money. So.
Yeah, that's why I'm your business auntie, not your random fuckery coach.
I'll change Alpha 2.0 to random fuckery. Okay, now, but wait, to my original point, because I don't want to lose this point. When good segue, when Pink Firefly and I, one of the mandates we had when she moved in with me was we're going to see a marriage counselor just for the rest of our lives to keep things going well instead of waiting things get bad, then going to a marriage counselor, which most people do. And so I've had a marriage counselor and my mom, I don't know how, both say to me that, Caleb, I think you're on the spectrum a little bit. I've had two people tell me this. Matter of fact, my dad has said this too, and he's a psychologist. So here's my view on this. If I am on the spectrum, if you say on the spectrum, which is the term everyone uses now, and apparently the problem with on the spectrum is everyone thinks that everybody's on the spectrum. It's almost like the word racist. Everybody's a racist. Everybody's on the spectrum. Okay, fine. So if you view the spectrum as a true spectrum from 1 to 100, okay, and 0 means you're not on the spectrum at all. You're quote unquote 100% normal, whatever that means. You're 0. If you're 1 to 100, you're somewhere on the spectrum. Okay. My view is, I'm not 100% sure about this because I'm not a psychologist. I'm not in this world. But my view is, if you're a little on the spectrum, if on a scale of 1 to 100, so let's say if you're 100, you're Rain Man. You know what I'm talking about from the movie? Yeah. Okay. You're Rain Man. You're like this, and you can't talk, and you're all super autistic.
He's a savant. Right. Let's just leave it at that. Like they used to call it an idiot savant. We don't use that anymore.
Okay, but you're socially inept. You're socially hopeless. At that extreme, you're from 1 to 100. You're 100. It's a real problem. Okay, and then maybe if you're 40 or 30, you're Elon Musk, or could be. So he's a little weird, but he's very successful. So what I'm saying is that if I am on a scale of 100, a 6 or a 7 or an 8 or a 12, that's a huge advantage. It's not a disadvantage at all. It's a disadvantage when you get 50, 60, 70, 80, that's a problem. And you could probably put Asperger's in there. You could put ADHD in there in terms of 1 to 1, this range. So if you have a little bit of it, which means you're on the spectrum, if you're on 1 to 100, if you're at 1, you're on the spectrum. So if you're at 10, which I assume I am, if I am, I don't know, I'm either 0 or I'm low, but I'm there. That's a huge advantage. You have all these advantages over people who are 0s, over normal people. Now, if you get to 70, you got a problem and you need help and you got to manage it. And that is my opinion, my uninformed,
I think you're
non-expert opinion.
You're onto something. I don't know that I agree entirely. Because at every percentage, let's say, of neurodiversity that you have, it's not like there's a direct correlation. Like I'm 40%, so that makes me really smart. You could have somebody who's at 70% but isn't good at masking, but is really good at performing a certain task, right? So
I'm talking about overall ability to move through life. So if you're Rain Man, you're going to have a shitty life because you can't move through life, even if you're really good at one thing, right? Whereas if you are perfectly, you can meet someone at a party and come off as completely normal, because I'm nothing but normal. I'm nowhere near normal, but I can go to a party, and if you met me and talked to me for 5 minutes and I controlled my topics, you have no idea that I am who I am. So I'm functional through life, but I have this little bit of maybe on the spectrum-ish stuff that I use as a tool, not a disadvantage. It helps.
Exactly.
Like
you were
having
teaching
less empathy
people,
or whatever.
Well, and in your case, it's outcome independence, right?
Yeah.
Which is hugely useful in business. And actually, that's the thing that I've learned most from you in our relationship. And we've talked about that before. I used to be much more emotional. I used to have outbursts. Part of that was hormone based because I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm doing hormone replacement now. Also, something I learned from Caleb.
Good. Excellent.
My
Good.
testosterone was actually too high when I did my labs last week. So I had
Big shock, Billie. What a shock. Right? Your testosterone was a little high for a woman. I'm so shocked.
Right? Exactly. So,
well, here's the other thing really quick. Higher testosterone women make more money, tend to be into more things like politics and finance. That's empirical. Higher testosterone women tend to make more money because they're more go-getter.
Either because again, we're okay being independent.
Right. So higher testosterone women is probably harder in your relationship life. There's probably a disadvantage there, right? Or no, maybe it might be.
I don't know. I'm kind
I guess that might depend on the woman.
I'm sure that we'll have to dig into that a different way.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! And I had a point that, but my train.
Sorry, I got excited about your testosterone point. Oh, are you on progesterone? What are they giving you? Or do you mind talking about it?
Testosterone and estrogen right now. I don't need progesterone yet.
Okay.
And we had to back off because my testosterone levels just spiked really high.
That happens, yeah. That happens when you first get on it. My
that happened when I argued with you, actually. That it was a couple of days later, I found out that my testosterone was really high when you and I were having some pretty.
Well, that explains a few things. Yes.
And I was like, well, hot damn, I just.
Well, I knew something was up outside of it. Yeah, I knew something was up outside of our conversation that one time. I'm like, okay, there's something else going on I don't know about. And so that answers it. Okay.
Exactly. But in my case, I think if you watch me on the channel, if you catch me in the Business Builder, I think I pass as like just a normal chick. But if you met me at a party or a bar, you would know. You would absolutely know them on the spectrum because I can't do small talk. I really struggle. I really struggle unless I have something to talk to you about and we have something in common that I know about. I don't pick up on social cues. I don't know how to start a conversation with strangers. Like, it's super uncomfortable for me. And again, most people would never guess that until you see me out in a social situation. You go, oh, okay. It makes a whole lot more sense now.
Unless you're with people you know. Yeah. The only I've been in social situations with you many times, but it's with a group of people we all know.
And we have something built in to talk about, like they're fans of ours.
Yeah.
So it's much, much easier than being like, hey, stranger, I'm this weird ginger chick who does businessy stuff. What can we talk about?
Yeah. Can you identify something, a specific one or two things that you have used? You make a lot of money. So can you identify something from your what's the term? Neurodivergence? Is that the correct term? Give me the correct term. Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's one of them.
All right, cool. So can you identify one or two very specific things that you've used from that to make you more money that the guys and the gals can use listening? If you were to narrow it down to one or two specific behaviors.
Kind of easy.
Okay.
If I have an idea and I want to do something, I just do it. I figure out how to make it happen.
Great.
That's a good example, and we've talked about this. I have always wanted to go to both Antarctica and the Galapagos. So I had a trip scheduled. In fact, I was supposed to get back from the Galapagos 2 days ago, but we had to postpone that. My closest friend had a death in the family, so we postponed. But I brought up to you, like, hey, I want to go to Antarctica. And you said, yep, I do too. And so I'm saying, okay, let's make it happen. I want to sleep on a submarine, like a big ass decommissioned World War II sub. And there's one in Wisconsin. Super cool. Super cool. But I just think it would be the greatest thing to sleep on a sub. I want to do that badly. None of my friends do. They think I'm ridiculous. But I know that I can get a group of guys who wants to do it because I have access to all of you through Caleb. And I know I'm going to find 1 or 2 people or 20 or 30 people who think sleeping on a sub, hanging out with our ginger auntie Billie, and talking about and improving our business lives sounds like a winner.
Really quick, what's the link? What's the link for that?
It is bosscooperative.com/events.
We'll put that in the description of this video too, for those of you watching the video. So bosscooperative.com/events for Billie's stuff. And then calebjones.com for the Unchained CEO, calebjones.com/events for the Unchained CEO residency stuff. But there's links to both on both pages. Yes. Really quick, to piggyback on what you said, I want you guys to understand what she just said, which is a problem a significant percentage of you have where you don't take action. She just said it. And literally, that's one of the biggest reasons that Billie makes so much more money than most of you will ever make, even though she's a girl and most of you guys are guys, because she takes action, and a lot of you guys don't. There are guys listening to the sound of my voice right now. Many of you who have been listening to my voice or watch my videos for 3+, 4+ years, and you're still making the same amount of money. You're still working the same bullshit job because you haven't taken any action. You thought a lot about it, whereas Billie has gone from 0 to a lot of money because she takes action on the things she wants. And now in her case, she said she takes action and figures out how to do it later. That would be maybe the opposite extreme of Illicig, where you just never take action. So there's probably a sweet spot in there in the middle zone where, and I've talked about this, where you sit down, you plan it out for a little bit, not long, not 6 months. You plan it out for a day or 2, and then you take action, and then you course correct as you go. Perfect. I'm glad you said that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things. And the other thing is that because, especially when I was younger, I struggled much more with social cues. If I was in a workplace and I heard about a problem, even if it was someone from the C-suite who was griping about something and I could figure out a solution, I wouldn't be afraid to pipe up. I wouldn't be afraid to correct people in meetings.
And then you get fired.
It's like a dick move, especially if you're a woman. Guys, older guys really hate being told that they're wrong, even when they are. So it would be a dick move. But if people listen to me, they'd make the company a hell of a lot more money. And I'd find these easy wins everywhere. And I just wasn't afraid to talk about it. And in some cases, it got me fired. In some cases, it was like the president would literally sit outside of my cubicle and like listen to what I was doing and like be spying on me because they thought I was like a subversive agent or something. I don't freaking know. But that's just the reality. I didn't pick up on the social cues enough to be stopped in the workplace from creating opportunities for myself. So if, oftentimes what would happen is I'd say like, hey, have you thought about doing this? Or here are 2 solutions for that problem. And people be like, oh, I didn't know you knew how to do that. And then that's what I run into a lot. Is like, because I can learn anything. I can learn anything on the fly if I'm interested at all. There are some things I'm really not interested in, but if I'm interested, I'm going to learn it. I'm going to master it very quickly, or I'm going to hire somebody who can. So it's another case of making decisions quickly, but also being able to take all of that input that I'm receiving and do something with it. Right. So I'm bringing it all in. I'm cogitating over it. My little mind is often like a tornado of ideas going around. And that's why I often, you'll find me asking Caleb to remind me where we were in the conversation, or that my train of thought has derailed, because it literally does, because there are too many things in the vortex for me to keep focused on just one thing. And again, a huge benefit.
Also, I should read this book. Benjamin Franklin had serious ADD or ADHD. I forget which one.
Something
hardcore, and he developed all these little systems for like like a bell that would ring every hour to get him back on task. And he was the first self-made American millionaire. I believe that's true. I believe that's factual.
That's the other superpower, Caleb. Thanks for bringing that up. Because I can break things down into their smallest key component parts to set myself up for success. I know that my memory is garbage. I've known this since I was a little kid. My memory is terrible, so I've had to come up with different methods to ingest and retain information. And one of the ways that we do that is by using project management tools in the workplace. I cannot tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I have made just teaching business owners to use a project management tool. And it's really natural for me because I need things broken down into pieces so that I don't miss any of the steps. And I'm very concerned about that. I'm a perfectionist, like many of you guys are. So it's really important to me. I don't want to look dumb. I don't want to do things wrong. I don't want to be a poor achiever. So that gives me the ability to break things down into as many granular pieces as need be, so that the process is completed reliably every time. And because I'm able to see things and break them down that way, I help others to do the same. To me, that is this. I couldn't believe people would pay me for that. That's how I got to know Caleb, guys. I literally came in and said, here, we're going to restructure your company. And the way we're going to do it is with project management. And here are all the benefits of that. And the only reason I have those skills is because in order to get anything done and be a successful contributing member of society, I needed to create systems for myself.
Why don't you summarize this, and then let's talk about business builder and residency stuff, and then let's answer questions. Or unless you want to summarize it. You have something to say in summation?
I think in summation, let me just say that if you feel you are on the spectrum, if you are struggling with being in a traditional 9-to-5 role, whatever that is, there is a path forward. Even if you're on the spectrum, there are many people with autism and Asperger's, which are much more limiting in most cases than ADHD is, who have their own businesses and are finding their own measure of success.
Yes,
And
I know. I've worked with many
who are at the 60 and 70% mark, where maybe they're not able to function solo for their lives, but they can still have and run their own business. There are still things that any single one of you can do. And it's leaning into things like your hyper focus, the way you notice things that other people don't, the unique lens through which you view the world, and actually your impatience can be a huge driving factor. So all of those things that we traditionally look at negative can actually be spun to be the most value that you can present. And it was only because of my ADD that I have any idea how to systematize or make a business work better. Is literally only because I had to find ways to cope for myself. And if you are on the spectrum, you have already done that your whole life. Every day of your life has been figuring out ways to fit into traditional society. So if you can do that, you can pretty much do anything, guys. So please don't ever let it be an excuse or a limiter.
Correct.
I would venture to guess that, as we learn more about the way our brains work and the diverse way in which our brains work, I think we're going to find more and more that the most successful entrepreneurs are definitely going to be people on the spectrum, because normals just don't think of these things. And if you are a normal, we'll help you think more strangely so that you can get to unique ideas and solutions.
Yeah, now we're going to reverse this and say, but I don't have ADHD, so I can't make any money.
Well, guess what, though? But these systems still work.
There's no excuses regardless. So if those of you listening to us or watching us, this is a podcast too, let me remind you, calebjones.com/podcast if you prefer to listen to these. We're on all the top 12 platforms out there. And the links have all been fixed. So if you have Asperger's, ADD, ADHD, you're on the spectrum, boom, Billie. And maybe myself, maybe I'm a little like my mom and the marriage counselor said, maybe I'm a little on the spectrum myself, whatever the fuck that means. So there you go. There's two examples. No excuses. Often this is a benefit and an advantage not a disadvantage.
Mhm.
And we're both examples of this. At least I think I am, and Billie certainly is. There you go. I mean, shit, dude. And again, I like to brag about this. I'm in 2.5 companies. Billie, how many companies are you involved with right now in terms of that you own equity in or working on, or what's the number?
9.
9.
Yeah.
I say 2.5. People go, wow, that many? Billie's in 9. She's running 9 companies.
But one of them is a charitable institution, but still, it's
Well,
the
that
same.
counts. In terms of your time usage, that counts. That counts. That's a
I'm
company.
just really good at delegating and creating those systems so that other
Right.
people can do the important stuff. And I break it down into as many key component parts as possible. And all I have to do is quarterback.
Right. All right, really quick. And then we'll answer some of your questions. We've been going for a while. I have a little more time. How much time do you have? You have a little more time or no?
I do. I have about 30 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right. That's about, I got a little less than that. So perfect. 2 things. 1, Paraguay. So I mentioned this last time. We have 2 ways of getting Paraguay residency. We have one where you can go down whenever you want and we work with you and get your residency. Then we have the other one, which is the Platinum, which is the event that Billie and I are doing in July. If you go to caleb.top/go.
Or if you go to Boss Cooperative events, it's also linked. We have a direct
there
link
too. Boss Cooperative. Yeah, it might be easier. bosscooperative.com/events. The Paraguay Get Residency event. You'll have all the dates there. You got to be there for 2 weeks in Asuncion. We usually have a number of people down there. It's Billie and myself. There will also be a mastermind down there where you work with, and you get me and Billie instead of just me for the same price. It's the same price for my mastermind. Really quick is what I'm in a hotel room or a small room with maximum 5 people, and we do a deep dive one-on-one coaching for each of the people in the room all day long, and then we go out to dinner. So the mastermind we're having in Paraguay, if you're coming there anyway or for any other reason, you have me and Billie. It's the same price. You have both of us.
Probably last time we did it at my apartment down in Paraguay.
We'll probably do the same thing.
Yeah. Rent, so we'll do the same thing. Well, you guys will
probably do the same thing. Are you in the same building this time? Are we in the same building?
I love that building.
No, that building's awesome. Okay, good. Then we also have, if you don't want to get residency or you're not sure, but you want to see what all the hype about is about Paraguay, we have Get to Know Paraguay, which is less expensive. You don't get residency, but you come down and do all the events with us. Plus, there's a whole pile of stuff that Billie has lined up for like the 2-week period. And the bottom line is the deadline to sign up for at least the Get Residency event is the end of this month. So you have 1 more week. And basically how it works is you go to a website, you schedule a call with Billie, get all your questions answered, and we got to get you enrolled fast, especially if you're an American, because if you're an American, it takes like 12 weeks to get your documents. And the documents have to be ready and apostilled and transit all that junk before you come down. And Billie, correct me if I'm wrong, if they're for non-Americans, it's a little faster, right?
It's always much faster for non-Americans. Okay, in a lot of European countries, you can get this paperwork in a day. Worst case scenario, 2 weeks. In the U.S., it's a couple of months for our federal documents.
More than a couple. Well, it varies, but yeah, it's a long fucking time. So if you're an American, especially if you want residency and hang out with us for 2 weeks with the group, Billie, myself, a bunch of other people with all those events.
Because the Get to Know Paraguay is a little bit shorter. We know that you're not committed to getting your residency. There's no reason to be there that long. It's hard to take off of work. But if you want to hang out with us, it's a good opportunity to do that. Hang out, see the country. If you have friends or family and you want to take a vacation and hang out with Caleb and I as part of it, come on down to Paraguay, guys. It's beautiful, it's inexpensive, and it's warm.
Cheap as fuck. We go to like steak dinners and it's cheap as fuck.
So, like we go to the fanciest restaurants in the country because I did not get this lovely girlish figure by not being a food person.
Yeah.
I am such a snob when it comes to food. So we go literally to the best places in the country.
The best place in the entire country. And the meat down there is so fucking good. You have never had meat like you've had in Paraguay, dude.
Their beef is so much, it doesn't even taste like the same animal as America. It's just
all that crap and hormones and shit. It's so good. And it's cheaper.
And they're breeding different breeds too, rather than for size and mass.
Yeah, that's true too.
And the food is just so much cleaner. I just love it down there, guys. And it's a really fun, and it makes you feel like an adventurer. because
Right.
it's far enough away and it's foreign enough that you feel adventuresome.
If you have family members you want to get residency to, you get discounts for additional people in your family or in your group.
Mhm.
So here's the thing. If you are interested in doing this, go to the website, bosscooperative.com/events, click the link for Paraguay, and then at least schedule a call with Billie and get that done this week.
Yeah.
So at least you know, because there's a hard deadline for this. If you wait too long and you want to do it, we've had scenarios where the paperwork took too long and people came down, they couldn't get the resume, they had to come back. We don't want that to happen to you. That's why you have to have these hard deadlines for this.
Yes.
For the mastermind and the get to know, there's a little more time. You have a little more time because you're not doing paperwork, but still. Also, we are doing an Uruguay event. We haven't really figured out what we're doing yet, but we're going to do it while we're down there, Billie and myself, where the group of us will come. Well, you can either meet us in Montevideo, or you can come, if you're in Paraguay, come with us on the plane. That'd be cool. And we'll be a few days in Montevideo, Uruguay, and there's some cool beaches in Uruguay, a bunch of other stuff. So we're doing that too. Okay. Next quick topic, and we'll get to questions. 90-Day Business Builder just opened today.
Ooh.
Today.
I love seeing new people in the Business Builder. It's so exciting every month.
Yep. So 90daybizbuilder.com or 90day.ca. That should be working now. 90day.ca. Actually, that does work. There's a little thing on the page that shows the wrong dates. I have not instructed my team to update that yet because I'm working on this stupid book. I'm not stupid book. It's the best book of my life, but I'm trying to get that book out the door. So I'm behind a little thing, but you can still sign up and get your call in now. Again, you schedule a call with us. You should do that. You have about a week. I forget what the deadline is. You probably should have had that written down before this. You have about a week. And again, the curriculum starts. Well, Bill, you might know the curriculum starts a week from Saturday, right? Let me think really quick. The first niche session is April 6th, right? Yes, that's right. I think I'm right about
no, that is, yep, it is April 6th.
Okay, so here's how this works. The curriculum starts April 6th. You can't sign up before April 6th because there's things you have to do before that session. So the deadline is this weekend. I don't have the exact, I think it's Monday the 1st to get into Business Builder. That's your deadline. You can make payments for both of these things, both Paraguay and Business Builder. You can make payments. It depends on what country you live in and various other factors. You can make payments up to 12 months. And we're the only people, by the way, in the entire world who offer payments to get residency in a country. There is no other company on planet Earth that does this. See, that's our niche. That's what aspects of our niche. So we have that, 90daybizbuilder.com or 90day.ca. Again, if you're even interested, you're not sure, schedule your call. So if you are interested, you get enrolled by the end of the week. You get the process started next week, and then your first session will be on Saturday the 6th. Yeah. You can't, we've made this error in the past, and this has been my fault. We let people sign up like right before, and Billie and Jeff are both like, you can't do that because they need to have the stuff done before the session, and it hurts their ability to make money. I'm like, okay, we can't do that anymore. So your hard deadline is in about a week. So your deadline in a week is both for the Paraguay Get Residency, especially if you're an American, and 90-Day Business Builder, both. So you want to get on that now if you have any interest, because after that, we're done. We can't take you. Just the way it goes. Cool? Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's such a fast-paced program, we really do put you to work, and we're right there for you every step of the way, as are the other members of the program. But if you're not ready to hit the ground running, it's easy to get left behind, and we certainly don't want that.
Questions. I'll scroll up to the top here. How do you find a good tax accountant? Rule of 3. And Billie, you can chime in if you want. Rule of 3. My rule of 3 is you interview 3 people, or if you want, you hire the best person, but then you assume you have to fire that person and hire another person. Then when you hire the second person, you assume in advance you have to fire that person and get a third person, and that's the person. Now, if you don't need to do that, great. But you're in the assumption when you first hire someone, I always do this mentally. Whenever I hire someone new, it doesn't matter who they are. I assume this person's not going to work. I'm going to fire them. Because most people do is they hire someone and say, oh, thank God, this is the answer to all my prayers. And then there's a problem and they freak out and get all pissed off. So don't do that. So that's, you have an opinion on how to hire a tax accountant or something like that?
Not really. I do a lot by vibe and do they meet deadlines? Unlike Caleb, I always assume everyone's going to work out is going to take over the universe for me. But if they don't, then I get rid of them
Yeah, I
rather
don't.
quickly.
I'm the opposite. I assume they're going to suck ass. You got to prove to me you're good. And sometimes they do. Billie was the first slotted hire. So sometimes you get a Billie, but often you don't. Depends. So Billie I didn't have to fire Billie. She worked out great. She was the first person I hired for that. So sometimes you get lucky. What is the Skeletor meme behind you say, Billie?
He says, today I crush all negativity. That's right.
See, did you see how Billie was talking about how she's kind of like a boy a little bit? She's got, how many women have a picture of Skeletor in her office? It's great.
I just think it's hilarious.
How do we know what we can make a solution for our niche that is useful given to be worth their time, given the plethora of offerings in the world? You want to answer that or I can?
It's simple. Find a problem that you can solve or improve upon. That's it.
Exactly.
That's the
What
magic.
is their niche's problem? What is their problem? That's it. That's what we teach the business builder. What is their problem? And you develop coaching, consulting, or a service to help solve or alleviate that problem. Then you're there. Then your market, unlike most business owners, your market wants to buy from you. They want to hire you. You're helping them solve or alleviate the biggest problem they already have. Instead of just saying, I lost weight, so I'm going to teach people how to lose weight. People go, okay, I don't care. Caleb, does someone control your Instagram? You messaged me while you were live on here. Yes, the Instagram that you're on is for the cold audience who doesn't know me. That is someone who pretends to be me. That's not really meant for you guys. So if any of you guys, my warm audience, get messaged by me on Instagram, it's not me. It's someone who works for me. Yes, that's for people who don't know who I am or are cold. That there's two Instagram accounts. There's a warm one and a cold one. Although the warm one I'm not doing much with. So that's why. Yeah, this YouTube and podcasts are from the warm audience. What?
It's also a lesson in delegation, guys. We can't be everywhere, but that's we provide the answers for these guys. So even if you're getting a response from someone who's not Caleb or myself, we have told them what to say. They have binders full of responses, just like some politicians have binders full of women.
Outsource. I don't have binders. I have spreadsheets, but
delegate.
Yeah. What's your advice for niches that are hyper on trend, i.e. it's profitable, growing like crazy, but it's only been in the market 2 to 3 years and there are only 10 to 15 prominent CEOs? You want to answer that or you want me to?
Why don't you take that one? Because I have to formulate a thought.
So that's fine. Now the question is, because you're probably talking about something technical in the tech world or crypto or something like that. That's fine. The question is, will you still, it's a 10-year rule. I don't really talk about this, but this is something I have in the back of my head. I learned this from somebody. I forgot they learned this from a long time ago. Will you still be making money from the thing that you're selling in 10 years? If your answer is, boy, I don't know, then don't do it. If the answer is, of course I will, then do it. And I realize it's getting harder and harder now with AI and things like that, but still the question you ask. So in both of my brands, I've asked myself that question. It's 2024. In 2034, will both of these things be still viable things to sell, even if the modality will change? Yes, they will. So I'm comfortable with it. So that's the question you ask. That's the only issue, is not that it's new. Sometimes new niches can be very profitable. Is it going to be around for a while? Because I've seen a lot of guys get very excited about things where they made a lot of money and then it died. Dogecoin, shit like that. So yeah.
My answer would be a little bit different. I would say it's okay to take risks. I like having multiple revenue streams, as you know. So I would say if diversifying that way makes sense for you, do it. And if you have a high tolerance to risk, do it. It doesn't need to be long lasting. It could be a business that you sell. It could be a business that you transition out of. It could look like many different things. So if you have the means, the time, and the interest, go for it. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't take off. That's the worst thing.
Then you pivot.
Yep. And then you've learned your lesson. You pivot. You have a bunch of new skills under your belt, and you move on with the next thing. That easy.
Did you guys hear what she said? You have a bunch of new skills. You move on to the next thing. You don't go, oh no, I made a mistake. You pivot. I make mistakes constantly. I just sent you to a website that has some incorrect shit on it, 9daybusinessbuilder.com. Fine, we'll fix it. It's not a big deal. It's okay. And Billie talked about how she takes action and then she figures it out. You'll make more money. You'll make more money taking action and figuring it out later than you will sitting on your ass thinking about shit all day. Now, I wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't constantly take action without any planning at all, but that's better than just sitting around going, yeah, I should start a business. Well, I don't want to make a mistake. So yeah. I think neurodivergent people are better because 1, they had to learn how to act normal, and 2, are more comfortable violating norms.
Well, it's not necessarily that we're comfortable violating norms. It's a lot of times we don't even know what the hell they are or why they're important. And for me, like, if I don't know the why, I'm not going to obey.
Oh, that's so funny.
So
That made me
I
laugh.
think that's a really good point.
Yeah. So when you're in a social situation, you're not picking up on social cues and you don't know what is appropriate. And when I'm in a social situation, I don't care what's appropriate.
I have
So I'm
some of
embarrassed
that
for
too.
people
I'm not
around me,
gonna
including my
lie.
wife.
I
What?
don't embarrass easily, I guess, as at the end of the day.
Yeah. I
I
don't
know that
embarrass
if
at
I make
all.
an ass of myself, that's okay. I've done it before. I'll do it again, and we just keep going.
Said if it was not illegal, I would, if it was, and it was, the weather could handle, I would walk around outside naked. I don't care. On my underwear, it'd be great. I don't care.
I
I
do
don't give
that
a
at
shit.
home when it's warm. It's just that we got a foot of snow last night, so not a
Well, see, you
chance.
can't do it. You'll freeze. So you can't do that where you live. And I get
can
sunburned where I
a
live.
lot of
Yeah.
the year, just not this time of the year.
Right. Using your personality or everything you can to your advantage wherever possible. My question would be, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I turn this weakness into an advantage?
Depends on what this specific thing that you're judging a weakness is. But there are always
And you
ways.
kind of talked about that too. Yeah. Jan's here. Jan is saying, join the 9-day biz program. Billie will make you move forward with a smiley face.
We love Jan.
Jan's in the
Jan
chat.
is in the business
Yeah,
builder.
Jan's
He's a brilliant sales guy, and I'm learning a lot from him as well.
Jan just did one of our coaching sessions last week. Did you know that, Billie? Oh yeah, you
did,
knew that.
I haven't seen it. In fact, I told Matthew, the
Yeah,
guy who is our salesperson for the 90-day business builder, I told him this morning because I was so excited. So we're looking forward to watching that.
Cool.
Hey, Jan. Good to see you, buddy.
Let's see. One of them is saying, I feel like you and Billie are also comfortable selling yourselves. That's confidence. A lot of that is confidence. Huh?
I wouldn't say I feel comfortable selling myself, but I know that I have something to talk about, that I know my subject matter. That's for me.
Well, if someone, to his point is, if you were in a room with CEOs and they said, all right, why should we hire you? And you just could talk about whatever you wanted to, you would be able to handle that, right?
Yes.
That's kind of what I think he means, is an overall level of confidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's me not
you're right.
understanding
You would never sell your, sorry, go ahead. What'd you say?
That's me not understanding things and needing some translation. Happens all the time.
Right. You will never sell yourself the way I sell myself. You won't do that.
Oh God. No, the mere idea horrifies me.
Yeah,
it's
you would never
terrifying. I couldn't. I think you have the biggest cojones ever to be able to do it, and mine don't exist, literally or figuratively, when it comes to self-promotion.
See, and the problem is that some people will see me or people like me and go, well, I can never do that. I can't make any money online. You don't have to be a person. I've said this many times, and Billie is proof of what I'm about to say. You do not have to be a personality on the internet to make money on the internet. You don't. There are people on the internet who never do any video. There are people on the internet who sell hard products. That's not my thing, but you have no idea who they are. It doesn't matter. That's just one of 15 different possible paths you can take. And then if you are a personality, great, do that, lead into that. But most of people are not going to be a personality like me, and that's fine. Billie has talked about how Billie has no social media presence. She doesn't really market, but she does very, very well anyway. So
it's not, she doesn't really market. She doesn't market. And
my website
is literally not done, but I finally started making one.
Right. Well, but you do network, which is a subset of marketing, but you're right. You don't market in any traditional manner.
No, right. Not at all. It's all word of mouth in my case.
How do you find out if you're on the spectrum and where on it? That's a good question. I have no idea. You have an answer to that?
So yeah, I do. Some medical doctors can diagnose. There are online diagnostic tools that are run by different physicians that they're legally accredited in the country where they're providing service. Otherwise, go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Any of those medical professionals can give you assessments and find out what's going on with you. In some cases, they also do some genetic testing. Now, that's not something, because I'm very private. I'm not really keen on having my genetics, out there for people to hack.
On the cloud.
But if you're interested in doing that, they can also help determine which medications will help for different deficiencies in your brain. So if you're serotonin deficient, et cetera, there are different medications, and they can tell from your genetic makeup which is medication the most beneficial for you. Otherwise, they do kind of a trial and error, or you certainly don't have to be medicated. I do have an Adderall prescription that's for my ADHD, but the only time I take it is when I have a long day full of meetings, or there's something I really super ultra have to focus on. And then I will take half of one because I don't like the way it makes me feel. It kind of makes that tornado of ideas slow down to the point that it's uncomfortable. So even when you are medicated, you don't have to take it. You don't have to take it daily, or you don't have to be medicated at all if you don't want to be.
Watch the medication.
There are plenty of plenty of other ways of getting support, but it can be a brain chemistry issue. And when that's the case, it can be appropriate. That's all, Caleb.
What are you still? Sorry, am I back? My internet's getting weird.
Yes.
Am I okay? Okay, cool. What are the downsides, upsides of US LLC versus UK LLC where you are a citizen? So if you're in the UK, US LLC would be better because you're going to pay zero taxes on that thing. If you're an American, it's almost inverted. However, it's more complicated for Americans. So it's not about which country, it's about where you live and what your what your passport says. What passport you have, what citizenship you have. It's really, that's the factor, not what is the best model in which country. But that's a very big topic. But yeah. You might want to take this, but I could. When I get in the zone, I'm great. But very often I sit down on my computer and sometimes over an hour will go by before I start. It's super frustrating.
It is so frustrating. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I don't have this problem.
Really
so what do you do?
Rob. I get pissed off and I chastise myself. I get frustrated and say, why the hell can't I get this done? I really want to do things. I mean, there are days where I have the list of things I really want to do. I'm excited. They need to be done. And I cannot get started. It's just not going to happen. So I will sit at the computer for an hour and try to do something, get frustrated. Then I make myself physically do something different. Go to a different room, go outside, do something completely different. Give myself a break. Which sounds ridiculous because you're like, well, you're just sitting in front of the computer. Isn't that a break? No, it's not, because what you're dealing with there is a hell of a lot of anxiety and a lot of self-recrimination. So I need to break that cycle by going and doing something physically different. Another tool that really works for me is what we call body doubling. So Matt Samp, who's one of the coaches in Boss Cooperative, owns his own advertising agency. And he's also a little flaky when it comes to getting things done the way he wants to. So we body double. We will sit on a call, him in Brazil, me in Wisconsin. We'll sit on our little Google Meet for 2 hours twice a week. And we work. We're literally just sitting in the same room, if you will, working. And if we have a question or a barrier, we might talk once or twice in those hours. We might talk the whole time. But the reality is just having someone there makes me more accountable and gives me that extra little bit of incentive. So body doubling can be huge. Another is accountability calls. I know that there were a couple of guys in an early iteration of Business Builder that would have a 10 or 15 minute stand-up accountability call with one another each day. Just saying, hey, what about, what are you doing today? What am I doing today? Okay, let's talk about it tomorrow. What did you get done? It's just having that extrinsic pressure can be really beneficial. And the way it manifests in my life is that my assistant, Muhammad, is my right-hand man from Pakistan. He's the greatest, but he is also my accountability buddy. So if something doesn't get done, or if I have something scheduled for myself and it doesn't get done, I know that Muhammad is going to see that I have failed. And to me, that extrinsic pressure, even though it's a deadline I created, this is all something I created myself. It still serves me really, really well. It gives me that extrinsic pressure that someone else is going to check in that keeps me moving even when I don't want to.
What Billie just said, she gave you about 3 different things. If you do those, a lot of you guys and a few of you gals, you do what she just said, it'll change your life. What she just said. And if you're listening to this on the recording of the podcast, you should rewind that about 120 seconds and listen to that again, because that's what'll solve a lot of your problems. The 3 things she just rattled off really quickly. It'll change your life.
The other one I'd add is what we talked about earlier, breaking things down into component pieces. If I look, if somebody with ADHD looks at their kitchen and says, I need to clean the kitchen, you're not looking at that as the kitchen task. You're looking at all of the individual tasks that you have to complete to get the kitchen done. And that becomes very overwhelming. But when you break it down and say, I need to accomplish this step, this step, this step, it's much more easily accomplished. So break things down, set yourself up for success, body double if that works for you, but find a method that works for you and lean into it. There is nothing wrong with working in a way that is different to what other people do. It just has to work for you.
Correct. We got to wrap this up in 5 minutes. Let's do like 1 or 2 more questions. Let's see. I'm trying to find someone as I asked what are Billie's rules for labor arbitrage? I'm meeting Asuncion professionals. I think he's in Paraguay right now. You mentioned that earlier. I'm meeting Asuncion professionals in my industry, and they're Asuncion, by the way, if you guys didn't know, is the capital city in Paraguay. Professionals in my industry, and they charge as low as 10% the price of Westerners. Correct. Asuncion appears to be an Upwork gold mine. So do you have rules for labor arbitrage?
Honestly, if they speak English to a passable level or whatever language is relevant to my clients, I don't care where I hire people. I think Paraguay is great because you're right. The labor is so inexpensive, the same as Southeast Asia, Philippines, India. That is why we outsource to so many of those different countries. They're also used to working in our time zones, like shifting their time zone to work with others. Yeah,
that's the beauty of Paraguay, dude, is it's in North American, South American time zones. Because that's in Dubai, I'm the opposite. I have to stay up late to do this.
Right. So Muhammad works at night and sleeps during the day so that he can keep American hours. And then that's very common.
Right.
But
Paraguay don't do that. Paraguay's awesome. Yeah. It's great, especially if you Canadians and Americans, and even some of you Mexicans, you go to Paraguay, it's up and down. So there's no time zone. It might be 1 hour, 1 hour difference, because sometimes they're off 1 hour off Eastern time. Great. I mean, you're so lucky. Oh my God. All right. We got let's see. Do you think, I'll probably make this the last question. Do you think autism, particularly high functioning autism, is passed down in a family? Do autistic children tend to have parents or siblings with autistic traits? I don't know.
I don't know enough about that. And full disclosure, I am not a parent because I'm allergic to children. They're awful little creatures. Yes. But yes, there definitely is a correlation. It definitely does happen in families. In my family, I would be surprised to learn my dad wasn't autistic. He has been deceased for several years now. But he was definitely highly on the spectrum. He's worse than me, and also much smarter than me. But also I have 2 brothers that both have ADHD as well.
Oh my God. Really? I didn't know this. They both do?
Yeah. 3 of the 4 of the kids in my family have it.
Well, there you go. So then, yeah, it's absolutely genetic. I thought it was, I wasn't sure. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah. All right. One more quickie.
Touch on one more quick one. This one that just popped up from David.
Yeah. Go ahead. You want to read that one? Go ahead.
Yeah.
From David W.
His niche is getting guys in the Asperger's spectrum in shape. Do we think that's a good niche? My response to this is going to be one that you've heard from Caleb before, I bet. Do gamers sitting in their basements care about the shape that they're in? Nope. Do normal guys on Asperger's give a damn about the shape they're in? Not necessarily. So I think it's going to be hard to find, hard to market to an audience that's that diverse, and we don't know if they consider that their weight or their fitness is a problem, and certainly a problem that they're willing to pay to change. and to pay what you're worth.
Right.
So
Do not, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just thinking, don't sell yourself short by painting the niche and thinking you understand what the service is that you're going to offer. I think that's the biggest challenge for most people starting a new business is we come from what we want to provide or what we
Right.
think we can provide. And the
Right.
trick, the magic secret sauce to all of this is finding a problem that other people perceive to be a problem that is painful enough that they'll pay you for a solution or an improvement.
Right. Exactly. Do not project. It's a projection. Do not project the problem that you're interested in to the niche. You have no idea if the niche gives a shit or not. So and this is very hard to do because you're wired to do this. You're wired to start a business based on something you think is important. No. So you don't want to say this. I see this niche. What they need is this. No, we don't care what you think they need. All we care about is what they say to you they need. Then you fix that. And if you hate that, you pick a different niche. Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's hard to do. It's hard. You have to do it.
It really is. We have to remove ourselves from this whole niche finding thing in a
Yes,
way that
completely.
feels really bizarre.
Right.
Because most people say, follow your dreams, follow your passions. And what we're saying to you is, I mean, yeah, you can do that. Will you make money? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. But if you solve a problem, you're always going to make money.
Right. Solve a problem that someone already has that's driving them crazy.
Yeah.
You go to a niche, you find the problem that they're really upset about, and you solve that. Okay. I have to go really fast. bosscooperative.com/events for the Paraguay Get Residency. Your deadline's in a week. 90day.ca or 90daybizbuilder.com. Your deadline is in a week. And in both those, Billie is very involved in both those, and so am I. So you don't wait. Get that done this week because we always get people after the deadline. Can I sign? No, we can't. Sorry. So just.
And we'd love to see you in there. I'm sure Jan would be happy to meet you too. He's a pretty great guy.
Yes. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you, Billie.
Thanks, everyone. See you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, Caleb.